Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time on MLG Cloud Kingdom, featuring two professional players of StarCraft. NITRIXdSuki is in your top right corner, and Shortstuff is in your bottom left. From what I've been able to find out online, Shortstuff is Alicia, who is a pro player from Korea. And NITRIXdSuki is also known as just plain Dasuki, but he evidently is sponsored by Nitrix, which I think is a caffeinated beverage as akin to Monster. That's basically all I can find out about him. I know they're both fantastic. Dasuki just lost the MLG Anaheim a short time ago to Vibe. I know that was pretty impressive. You know what else is impressive is the map, Cloud Kingdom. It rocks. I love it. Very small choke leading down with a ramp down to the natural expand, which has a larger choke right here. Opening up the expand, it's a little bit more vulnerable than some, but it's still nice. You don't have that distance and elevation. That distance and elevation is actually over here with the destructible debris, but then you have another pathway leading up to the third right here, which is incredibly exposed because you have three different pathways, one to the north, one to the left of it down the ramp, and then one to the south. A probe slipping in from Shortstuff as the spawning pool just gets started, so Shortstuff's going to know exactly when that started. Because of the timing, Shortstuff decides to go for a Forge Fast Expand. He dropped the pylon with the probe as he was heading out. This little guy threw a probe down so that right whenever he got there and saw that there was no fast spawning pool, no fast pressure coming out of Dasuki, he knew that he could drop down that Forge Fast Expand and finish up the wall, which is going to have to be a rather large wall. I don't know if you caught that game. I cast it a little while ago, but it was pretty neat. The player didn't completely wall off until an actual push came in, and then he threw down three Evo chambers. Player was Zerg against a Baneling bust, and right before the Evo chambers finished, he canceled them after they absorbed quite a lot of damage from the Banelings. It was incredibly awesome. I'll post what game it was in the comments description because I don't remember off the top of my head. Nexus going down as Forge Fast Expand. That's what's going to happen. Photon Cannon 2 with another pylon. There's probably going to be another structure in front of the Photon Cannon. You don't want to leave it exposed. Dasuki manages to grab his own expansion despite this probe being in the area. It looks like that probe carted off real quick just to take a look up at the third to see if it went down. But because that probe pulled away and these Zerglings made it out in time, it looks like Shortstuff is not aware that that expansion did go down. You can see that Dasuki did send in his Overlord just to check to make sure that that Nexus is going down in the natural expand for Shortstuff. So he knows that early pressure is not going to be a big deal out of Shortstuff. In fact, he only has a single gateway and it's not even built yet. So any pressure that's coming out of Shortstuff is definitely going to be delayed. No gas geyser being grabbed by Dasuki. He did pop out that second queen, which is going to go down to the other hatchery. Because of the lack of early pressure coming out of Shortstuff, it looks like Dasuki's going to grab for that third expand, which is becoming incredibly popular with the whole discovery. Day 9 did that whole roach mass all in after you grab 3 bases, and everyone listens to Day 9 and realize that what he's saying is true. He doesn't lie. And that build's incredibly powerful, so it's interesting to see someone like Dasuki doing it, and it's going to be fun to see what exactly, if any, spin he puts on it, because players of this caliber they rarely follow a build order that someone else has perfected. Shortstuff positioning his Zealot there to keep that wall, so it's not airtight, but as long as that Zealot's on hold position, then he doesn't have anything to worry about. We can see that there are no other tech buildings at all in the main base. It's just that one cybernetics core going up on the warp gate tech. At the same time, there are no special buildings for Dasuki in his main base, so all he has is Zerglings and Queens. All Shortstuff had when I started talking about this was a single gateway. You can see now he's thrown down a robotics facility in the bottom left corner. Excellent place to hide it, especially if he managed to catch the Overlord in the top left corner over his natural expand. Other Overlord's going to be coming in on the right side, which is totally standard. Usually you position a Suicide Overlord here just to sweep in, and you kind of come up and catch this whole wall, but with the positioning of the Robo down in this corner, that's going to remain hidden. It does not look like anything except for a single sentry, which has not been finished yet. Oh no, here's one right here. That sentry is going to be able to hit this Overlord as long as that Overlord doesn't get close enough to scout this Robo. It's important that this Robo went out first, because the most important thing to remember about Robos is it's not a warp gate. You can't just create units. This Overlord is making a beeline for that, so we're going to see if he spots it. He does indeed spot it. So now NITRIXdSuki knows that something's coming out of that Robo. Obviously it's going to be an observer of some kind, but when those observers stop and he transitions over to the Immortals, or maybe he's going to throw down a robotics support facility, create a bunch of Colossus. So that's something that's going to change NITRIXdSuki's build order. Maybe he's going to get an early Spire out. Maybe he is going to double down on the Roach Warren with double Evo chambers for upgrades. You can see that the Zergling speed just started, as did the Lair Tech, which is going to allow NITRIXdSuki to get more upgrades for his roaches. Probes coming out with these sentries, just based on the size of the force, it doesn't appear to be a push, because there's no zealots or stalkers mixed in there, just sentries to prevent any surrounds or anything like that. So Shortstuff throws down a Nexus to take that third. These sentries are going to be able to force field to the end of time this enormous wall off. They won't be able to do anything if a push comes here, but since NITRIXdSuki is focusing on macro himself, you can see he's got 68 drones, but only 3 Zerglings. Not enough to punish the greed that Shortstuff is showing. You can see a couple more Zerglings on the way, and they might be enough to come in here and keep Shortstuff honest on this expansion. But until these upgrades finish, until he gets a critical amount of roaches out, NITRIXdSuki's not going to be able to do too much pressure here, especially with so many warp gates already coming out. We can see the 6th gate with Robo and Immortals coming out, so both Shortstuff and NITRIXdSuki are beginning to start building their armies as we approach that 10-minute mark. It's going to be interesting to see if Shortstuff decides to push out, throw down a pylon somewhere on the map, and maybe attack NITRIXdSuki as he's grabbing this 4th, or if he's going to sit back and wait until he gets a larger force, a death ball, if you will. It's a good idea to get these sentries out first because of their ability to stack up energy. The longer those sentries are alive, the earlier you get them, the more energy they have, the more force fields you can throw down, and the more useful it is against hordes of Zerglings like this. For that matter, what I was saying earlier about the Immortals is the earlier you get that robotics facility, the more Immortals you have out, because with warp gates you can pop down so many creatures at one time. So many units can be created at one time. But with the robotics facility, you need multiples of those to create so many units. It takes a lot longer, and the units that come out of them are more expensive. So the earlier you get those structures, the better off you'll be, unit count-wise. You can see a spire is just beginning to be built, probably up in the main base. I don't see it. That's a macro hatch. There's a Hydralisk's Den out, which is a great play, especially because we haven't been able to get any Colossus out, and we don't see any Colossus tech. Twilight Council's probably for the blink with the Stalker play. But those Immortals are going to be very useful against these Roaches, but once those Hydras come out, the enormous DPS that's coming out of them is really going to punish this army count. Excellent answer to those are Colossus, because Zerglings and Roaches are so weak, and they die so very quickly. This army composition right here will really melt away, leaving only the Roaches, which can get mopped up by the 3 Immortals that are out on the field right now. Spire's an excellent answer to that, because the Colossus can get picked down pretty quickly by some Corruptors. So a couple of Corruptors can really just destroy the Colossus count very quickly, and you see these Hydras are already on the field, and even though 2 Zealots rush in, they only manage to take out 1 drone, forcing NITRIXdSuki to pull all of his army back. It looks like a wall off has been completed here by Shortstuff. He's using the destructible debris, incorporating that, but this is a really clever play, because NITRIXdSuki has to, force himself either to come through a narrow or choke, run the risk of the sentry throwing down a force field to cut off half of his army, and while the rest of the army gets cut to pieces in here, or being forced up into the one way he can take an engagement right here, and that's where the majority of Shortstuff's army is positioned. He really can't, NITRIXdSuki cannot afford to let Short Stuff reach 200 over 200 supply, that death ball will be unstoppable. And you can look at the mini map and realize that an enormous attack's coming right now, but those sentries with all of their energy throws down a ridiculous amount of force fields. Multiple force field lines just cutting units in half. Short Stuff's got a great positioning for his units here, but those Hydras, as they sneak in, the sentries are very exposed. They all go down. Hopefully they've expelled all the energy that they've picked up. Some Corruptors alive show up. No Colossus on the field, so they're not doing much. But you can see the 182 over 123 even after that attack. 12 roaches on the way. This army is going to be re-macroed and pushed in again, and this time there's only 2 sentries in this composition. A robotics bay is on the way. Those Colossus are going to be able to really do some damage to the Hydras, which are beginning to take up a larger and larger force. But the units lost tab will really show you that right now it's favoring Zerg. That attack was exactly on the terms that Short Stuff wanted it. He wanted the attack to be at that choke. He wanted the attack to be in that way so that his sentries could throw down the units there. And even though the destructible debris went down, Short Stuff immediately completes that wall off with some pylons and some gateways, forcing NITRIXdSuki to re-engage back here at this low ground, or maybe take advantage of this place. It looks like he's going to use both to get a better flank. Multiple force fields go down, but again, these are brand new sentries. They're running out of energy. 3 force fields prevent the rest of that army, so NITRIXdSuki decides to swing down to the right, engage the several stalkers down there, while these stalkers are shooting off into the Hydra just bundle. You can see 1 Colossus is almost done. No Colossus on the field and only 1 Immortal. That single Immortal does go down. Now it's only sentries against just a lot of Hydras. Hydras are going to out DPS sentries, but once that Colossus gets on the way, and we can see extended thermal lances also coming, once that Colossus gets here, it's going to do some significant damage. The Stalkers are forced to pull back with devastating losses. They blink back behind the probe line. All the defensive structures have gone down. See, the upgrades are 2-2 against 2-1. So a slight upgrade favoring NITRIXdSuki. And remember that all this time he's been mainlining units so hard that he really hasn't kept up with the saturation there, but that saturation will improve once he's forced to transfer drones. This Colossus is in danger. It's lost all of its shields, and it doesn't have that extended thermal lance, so every time it needs to attack, it comes within range of those Hydras. So it just barely is surviving, coming in, taking a shot, backing out. 2 more force fields go down to prevent the rest of those that force from swinging up into the open area, but it looks like they're going to take down the Nexus, and that just opens up too much of an empty space. Finally, extended thermal lances finishes, so these 2 Colossus are going to do more damage, but at this point they really don't have any structures to go into the front so they can take advantage of that range. So those Roaches are going to be able to push right up to those Colossus, and that extra range isn't going to do anything. Single Corruptor comes in, finishes off that 1 weakened Colossus, and right now NITRIXdSuki's just power pushing into the natural, which is pretty much the only base that Short Stuff has to mine off of. These tech buildings are all going to go down. This Colossus remains just flirting backwards. That Corruptor pushes with it. A couple Hydras takes it down, and with that Colossus goes Short Stuff's hope of winning this. He had another one on the way, almost done, but 3 more Corruptors were going to kill that real quickly. You can see at the same time NITRIXdSuki was grabbing a 5th because his attack was so successful. Yeah, so these guys were masters. I feel bad for playing this game because they're that good, but at the same time, I love this game because they're that good. It's always entertaining to see people who are that crazy awesome playing this game. I had a blast, guys. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I am Big and Scary. Leave me a comment if you want me to do something different, or message me if you want me to cast one of your games. I'll see you around, guys. Bye.